Second.
I'm gonna put this.
What is going on, everybody? We are live with a special guest today.
Hold on, sorry.
Okay.
Hey, I got up like right. Okay.
She's rearranging her furniture on the air right now. No worries at all, guys. No, I'm kidding. But Emily Van Perk. Oh, God,
you got it right off. You got it correct before we started live.
No,
and then you butchered it.
It's okay.
Buskirk is with us live right now. How are you today?
I'm actually doing really well. It was my first day outside, like in the world, since all the draft stuff I published. I was literally like in a hole. So I got to go outside, see the ocean and take a little walk. So today's a good day.
Oh, how are you today, Stoops?
Well, not that good. I did go outside, but it was raining. So I didn't I'm not doing as well as you. But other than that, staying in, doing my normal, watching some Frasier, getting caught up on some shows, and just hanging out, getting ready for what we're doing tonight, getting ready for tomorrow. Just excited for the whole week, really.
Yeah, it's an exciting week. I mean, as a collective whole, I mean, the draft is right here. It's kind of like Christmas. I mean, obviously, like you said, you write college football. So, you know, the thing that's different this year for me, this is my first year kind of covering these college guys. So, like, I feel like this is like months and months of work that has gone into this. And we're finally here, per se. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I'm at the same time, I'm ready to talk about the guys next year. Like, we've already started talking about the 2021 guys as a collective whole on our podcast. But like, do you ever get to the point where you're like, I'm kind of tired talking about this particular class. I'm ready to kind of move on.
No, because if you look at not at all, they're all, I literally ended my podcast last night by saying this because I had 9 guys come on this week, which was like way more than I anticipate. You always think some are going to say no, like they don't have time or whatever, but everyone was so great. And I told, they're all like my children. Like I travel to so many different places throughout the college football career that I get to know. It's a never ending cycle of learning about a new player and a new school and a new coach. So it's a deep, dark rabbit hole. Well, dark is not right, but it's a very deep hole and I could go down it forever and it never gets old. I love these kids and I'm sad to see them go. It's like, they're my kids, you know?
That makes a lot of sense. Is there any guy in particular that you've grown fond of that maybe you didn't know a whole lot of before the season started?
That's like an impossible, like name a region of the country and or a conference and I'll name you a kid.
Southeast. There we go. I just thought of something off the top of my head.
I got really close to a couple. We'll see, but I got close to a couple guys at LSU. One of them was on the podcast and he's a long snapper, which at first blush you're like, okay, but I love special teams guys. I'm a huge kicker, punter, long snapper girl. And so he came on my podcast. We talked for like 30 minutes and his brother is the long snapper for the Buffalo Bills. So we talked, it's so neat. Blake Ferguson and his brother's name is Reed. And so he's been training with his brother and it'd be really cool because they both were long snappers at LSU and they took over, like Reed went there first and then Blake took over after him. So they're going to have this kind of like dynasty of long snapping if he makes it in the NFL and plays.
That's actually pretty awesome.
Fun.
When we were down in Mobile, I'm trying to remember the punter's name off the top of my head right now. I can't even think of it.
It wasn't Braden Mann because that's my favorite guy. That's my favorite punter. But no, it was the other guy. I don't remember.
I think it was a guy from South Carolina. But like I tweeted a punt of him punting it. He punted like 80 yards, right? Mm-hmm. And I was just like impressed with it. It's like the most viewed, most liked, most retweeted tweet of my entire. I was like, this might be. You know what I mean? People love a good punter and a good kicker.
They do, and it's so valuable. You get a good dose of it in the Pac-12. Honestly, the more Pac-12 you watch, you'll see how valuable kickers are because field goals are a big thing there. And Utah has always had kind of a monopoly on kicking, punting. And, you know, Mitch, I can't even say his name, Wiskowski or whatever it is. He's with the Niners, and he was a big pickup for them in last year's draft. And they're like funny, unique guys. He's Australian. He's hilarious. And people love special teams guys. They do. I don't know.
What is the Pac? What is that he's talking? We never get to see that over on. It's crazy. Yeah. We started talking about the Pac-12. We did a couple of player profiles as a collective whole for next year. And when we did, it's so hard to find highlights or any footage at all on any of these guys.
Okay. It can't be that hard. Pac-12 has its own network.
Well, it does. But when you're trying to do some research about some guys after the season and you're trying to hone in on some of these guys, it's kind of hard to find without finding small highlight reels per se that you can find on there. But yeah, I mean,
let me know. I'll send you film because I was damn near at every Pac-12 game you could think of and the biggest proponent of the conference. I got in a fight with David Pollock at the College Football Awards this year. We full on had an hour fight during the show and people were like gathered around watching because it was like crazy about how I think the Pac-12 top to bottom is the best conference in college football. Now that doesn't go over very well with a lot of people, but we don't have a Vanderbilt, they don't have an Arkansas. Sure. They don't have teams like that where you can just beat up on them. Oregon State still had 4 wins in the conference. They're a tough team to beat, especially in Corvallis. So anything you need, I got you.
Well, I appreciate that. And I totally agree. Everybody just thinks like, oh my God, Alabama. And it's like Alabama. Now you have to understand, I live in Nashville.
Okay.
So all I hear, I'm from Pennsylvania, but all I hear about down in Nashville is SEC. This is SEC country. And it's annoying. You know what I mean? It is. And I understand people are the reason, like people can't go back like 25 years and be like, what was the SEC? Was that even a program back 25 years ago? Yeah. Nowadays it is something, but like people forget the Pac-12, they beat up on each other. You know what I mean? They did. Like year in, year out, these guys beat up each other. And if you look at Alabama's schedule from like last year, we were talking about Tua. I'm not a huge Tua guy, but like they have like 6 or 7 cupcake games every year. And it's like, it kind of blows my mind how often they are just not playing anybody.
What are your thoughts on Van? Like, okay, Derek Mason was a Stanford guy, so I know him, and I was actually on the plane with him when he flew to Vandy from Stanford. Like, I was on that plane, and I was like, "There's no way this is it." Are people in Nashville just like, no?
Okay, so Vanderbilt obviously like nobody goes to the Vanderbilt games. Like,
yeah.
if they play Kentucky, the stadium is filled with 85% of Kentucky fans, right? It doesn't matter who they're playing. 95% of the time, people will travel to Vanderbilt because it's a nice area. People like the party in Nashville. It's right down the street from downtown Broadway and stuff like that. So the hiring is interesting. I don't think it meshes with their culture. You know what I mean? They're not a football program, and they're never going to be a football program ever. If they go 1-9 and they beat UT, Vanderbilt will be happy. That's it. Like they don't even have to go to a bowl game. That's just how it is.
Well, what were your thoughts on? I'm sorry, I'm like interviewing you now, but what were your thoughts? Bryce Drew is a good friend of mine, and I actually was at Valpo when he was going to leave. Like people are like, okay, where's Bryce going to go? And I was trying to push him to Stanford because I think he would have been a heck of a lot better than Jared Haas. But he went to Vandy, and obviously that flamed. Like it was like hard to watch, but he's a great coach. So what did you guys think of that being like native to it?
For me, I thought it was interesting. The job itself, I really feel like they need to hone in on an alumni, right?
Yeah.
They just need to. I mean, go get Jordan Rodgers off The Bachelor and just let him be head coach. You know what I mean? Something that they just exactly. But they just try to throw somebody in the loop, and it's just like the culture never works out. Obviously, Franklin being the only guy that really kind of he prospered out of here, and he did it in a fast manner when he was here. But outside of that, it's weird because like even talking to like the players, the good ones, if you watch the team this year, they were dreadful, right? Keyshawn Vaughn got hit. Like I love Keyshawn Vaughn a lot. I think he's super talented. I think he's great. I think he's going to be a great asset. And he's just overlooked because of where he went. But like he got over 1,000 yards on the ground and still did that regardless of how absolutely terrible and how putrid that offense is this year.
I just felt bad the way it all like. He's such a good coach and he's a good guy, but the problem is he's very religious. And that's the one thing people don't realize about Valpo is like they have good basketball. And actually, my good friend Matt Loddick is coaching there now, and it's still a struggle. It's just hard to get guys in. It's a very religious school. It's hard to find the right culture for that. But I was bummed.
And that's the thing for me is like it's kind of crazy like what Dabo's done with Clemson. You know what I mean?
I know.
He's a very, very, very religious man. Very, very religious man. And that's what, when he does his recruiting, like I mean, if you look at some of the guys that when they either they stay or they go, it's a very religious program. They do a great job. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not like he's not recruiting. Obviously, we're talking about Clemson versus like a football. I understand that.
A little different, but
it's a tad. But
no, but it's true. Like I went out there for their Texas A&M game, which people were like, okay, there's going to be a big game. It wasn't, but I spent time and I got to tour the facility and I got to spend time around their AD, and I see why people like drink the Kool-Aid. Like it's a huge, huge fun thing to be a part of. Like I was there for a couple of days and I felt like I was part of the Clemson family because that's just how they do it. And I see why kids want to go there, and play for him.
It's funny that you mentioned. Hold on, this way. Sorry, you mentioned Texas A&M. Stoops is actually in Texas.
Oh.
He's a Texas A&M guy, so he loves exactly. Me too. But
that was supposed to be like a big game, right? And then you know what? I'll tell you this:
Kellen Mond is what he went. Kellen Mond is the problem.
Yeah, but it was 112 that day. It was like a 3 p.m. kickoff. It was like the hottest I've ever been in my entire life. They have an open air press box that's outside.
Oh God,
it was unreal. And so I was like, these poor guys. At least, I mean, Texas. I guess you're supposed to be used to that, but.
So I tell everyone the heat here, it's different. Like it's still hot, right? Hot is hot. It doesn't make a difference.
But it's like dry there, right?
Yeah. So the hot is just different. So you're used to it to a certain point. 112 is 112. I don't care who you are.
I know
care where you're from.
They looked like they had been hit, over the head with something. It was rough, but Dabo, you want Dabo in a good mood for the post game, and I had to ask him a question about his DJ because I was doing a series on stadium DJs, and DJ Shea's kind of famous now, and I was like, thank God he's in a good mood because most guys don't want to talk about shenanigans like that. But he loved it. When you get Dabo in a good mood, it's like perfect.
Yeah, he seems like a good character. You know what I mean? Like, super duper religious guy, but at the same time, he's like a Belichick. He's a low key, super duper fun. You know what I mean?
He'd be like, when they do those State Farm or the commercials where they're like, this is the other Chris Paul. Like, he's like the other like the Belichick. You know what I mean? Like they're the same, but they're not at all the same, but they are. When I was at the draft last year, it was actually tonight. I was wandering around Broadway with my friend, and we ran into Dabo and his wife, and we stopped and talked with them, took a picture, and like chatted. And then right after I saw him, they were like kind of exploring whatever. I ran into Jim Mora, and he was having a hell of a time. Like, I was literally like, "This is Jim Mora living his best life ever," and it was great.
You were a good head coach. You made a lot of money. Yeah. Why not? Right? Why not get out there?
He said he's coming back, and his girlfriend, who he was with, well, I don't know. Because I think he got divorced. It wasn't his wife because he's been divorced, and I think it's his new girlfriend or whatever. But she was she'd been drinking. I think they both had, and she was like, I was talking about his office at UCLA because he gave me a tour once, and he has this Yoda that he always has in all his offices. It's like his thing, and I was mentioning that, and she goes, "Oh, well, Yoda's getting, he's ready to be unpacked in a new office soon." I was like, "Oh." Back in the coach's seat, okay, and you got to watch out for those girlfriends when they've been drinking, man. Like,
right? They'll just tell the whole
break some news,
break some real news, yeah.
So that was fun.
Okay, so we were playing. We had a fun little idea to play a game. We played like love and hate. It doesn't necessarily mean you actually hate the guy. You just don't like the idea of maybe where he's being drafted or. Stuff like that. So let's kick it off with the wide receiver position. Give me somebody that you like in this class.
That's a good question. Okay, so I like T. Higgins.
Obviously, yes. Stoops.
I love T. Higgins. He's my wide receiver 3, I believe, is where I had the rankings up here somewhere. But I love T. Higgins. So backtrack. You brought up the Clemson A&M thing, right? So obviously I'm a diehard A&M fan, but I'm a open-minded enough fan, I guess, to respect other players, programs, whatever. So I look at it as a whole, but I love T. Higgins. He's definitely someone that I've followed pretty close. I'm a big fan of that one. For me, I chose Denzel Mims. That's who I went with. I love Denzel. Well, let me rephrase. He's not my love. I like Denzel Mims.
Oh, was I supposed to do it like that, where I say like, love, whatever?
No, just one at a time. Just one at a time.
Okay.
One at a time. I've got to remember who I wrote down. I don't even remember.
Was this the like one or the love one?
It was the like one. That's why I said, well, I don't love him. I like Denzel Mims.
Yeah. I like T. Higgins. I got you.
My like is Jerry Jeudy. The only reason I like is because I love somebody a lot more than him. This just got interesting.
Sorry, Jerry.
But I seen a lot of the smoke and mirrors right now around his knee, which is kind of funny. I think it's exactly that. Somebody's trying to get him lower in the draft. It's that time of the year for the perfect rumors. You know what I mean? Joe Burrow's getting traded to, Tennessee, whatever. You know what I mean? Whatever anybody can kook up and throw up on Twitter right now, they're going to do that. But I love Jerry Jeudy. I think he's a phenomenal talent. I think he's the best receiver in this class, hands down. Give me somebody that you hate at the wide receiver position.
Oof. Hate?
It could be somebody that you think might be drafted too high. It could be somebody that you just don't think that's going to transition well.
I'm going to go last. Somebody go before me because I don't know that one.
I'm going to go with I got KJ Hamler, and it's more so from what I saw on film. They always talk about how he's a speed guy. So I just wasn't a fan of what I saw in the film. He had some decent stats, but overall, I just wasn't a huge fan of what I saw on film. Consistently. He just didn't have necessarily, I always talk about how he could break away from this, that, and the other. And he had those, but overall, I wasn't a fan. I mean, and also being 5'9", 176, you got to go to the right situation to where they're going to use you in the right way. So basically that's kind of my biggest thing. If he goes to the right spot, my mind could totally get changed, but I'm sticking with KJ Hamler right now.
I'll give you mine. Mine's Lynn Bowden. Not a fan.
Not a fan.
He's a gadget guy, right? He's not a guy that I don't think is going to produce and win games every single week for you. There's a lot of guys that want him to creep up in that bottom half of the second round, maybe even the third round. I think if he gets taken that high, he's going to go in front of a lot of receivers that are really, really, really talented and can make a contribute day one. All right. Back to you.
Okay, well, this isn't like a hate, but this is more of like, I think the people are really high on him, and I'll transition it from saying that, and then I'll give you the guy that I love. Laviska Shenault, I do like him as a wide receiver. I've seen him play a ton this year, but I do think that people have him very, very high for what his ceiling is as a receiver. We didn't get to see him do, like, the things that he did were great, but you have not sold, but I do love another guy from the Pac-12, Michael Pittman Jr. Now, a lot of people don't talk about him as much. He made some incredible catches on a pretty deep USC receiving core that was impressive. And I just had a guy from Stanford on my podcast, Casey Toohill, and he said that USC is the best offense he faced in his career there at Stanford. So that was high praise from that linebacker. But Pittman Jr., he has really good hands, and he makes these insane NFL-esque catches already. So, and he's body-wise like a good-looking guy. So
Pittman impressed me down in Mobile when we were down there, right? He was very impressive that week. You're right. The big thing
did you talk to him? Like
Pittman? Yeah, he's a very nice guy. Very nice guy. And that's the thing, like, and what you were talking about, like away from the body catches, you know what I mean? Like he's got a guy on him, he's still making those catches. First off, he had, in my opinion, one of the best quarterbacks throwing to him last year. I forgot your packs. I love Slavis. I love him. I think that he is, this is completely off topic and I really don't care right now, but I love Slavis. I think that Slavis is the next big thing. I think after Lawrence, next year, I think Slavis the year after that's going to be the first quarterback off the board. I'm planting my flag on that man right now. Or well,
a couple that has a lot to do with Graham Harrell going there, like his development of players. I mean, we saw him work with guys like Mason Fine, which his development as a quarterback alone from when he got to North Texas to now is incredible.
For sure. Yeah, I just love what I saw. I saw him make throws that freshman quarterbacks should not be making. they should.
Okay, yes. So the Stanford USC game was a big game for that kind of behavior because Stanford had their freshman quarterback Davis Mills in, and he looked like a freshman. And then you had Keaton in there, and he's good, but I got to see what the jump. I'm not sold yet. I got to see the jump from this year to next year. And
for sure.
You know what I mean? That's going to be the biggest when he comes out next year. They got to play Stanford every year in like week 2. That game's always the most telling to me of how the USC team's going to be and how their offense is going to look. So,
yeah, Stoops and I were talking about it on our show. Like, it's crazy how deep USC's weapons are this year. Like, their wide receivers this year it's insane. Like, the running back end, they have the most talent. Like, they're losing guys and they're still getting guys back that are insane. It doesn't make any sense why they don't win as many games as they do. Like, they don't every year.
Crazy. I was talking to Mike Jinks about the running back because that was like a secondary thing this year compared to the receiving, and he was like, "We're so deep, we don't even know what to do with these guys sometimes. Like they're all really talented." So yeah, USC is going to be a team next year, especially with Utah crashing and burning the way they did in the Pac-12 championship game in the South. I think we're going to have a battle between USC and ASU, and it's going to be really fun. So we'll see.
Stoops, who's your love?
My love is the guy that we have talked about quite a bit on the pod for a very long time, Antonio Gandy-Golden. We talked about it, how when we went down to Mobile, we wanted to see what he would do against the competition there, because going to Liberty, they don't face anybody, truthfully, so for a lot of people to be sold on him at the next level, they want to see him against the top talent. So I feel like when we're down to Mobile, he checked all the boxes that we wanted to see. I love him. To me, and everyone talks about how he can't create separation, right? He struggles with it. I didn't see that, especially down in Mobile. I thought he created separation very well. And I had that one clip where he essentially gave the corner a move, got past him, and made that easy catch, for a touchdown on the one-on-one. So Antonio Gandy-Golden, he's a guy that we've planted our flag on early into the last season, and we rode with that one. And I mean, he had almost 1,400 receiving yards, 10 touchdowns. So I just love what I've seen on film. I love what I saw down in Mobile, and I like his size, 6'4", 220. Yeah, he's got some good size to him. So he's my love.
Yeah, he's my love too. I've loved. We do. We have. There's two guys that we've planted our flags on early on in this podcast. It's Antonio Gandy-Golden and Adam Troutman, and both of those guys. Obviously, the smaller school guy, but Gandy-Golden's good. Like it. He's one of those guys. When I was talking about Lynn Bowden, it's like if a Lynn Bowden gets drafted in front of an Antonio Gandy-Golden, like that stuff right there, like it blows my mind. Where I've seen the range of Gandy-Golden being drafted in the 3rd round all the way to the 6th round, and I just think somebody's going to get a generational talent, and they're going to steal him in this draft. Running back position, give me somebody that you don't like in that running back position. Stoops, I'll let you kick it off to give Emily a second to find her a guy.
I did not do my homework, even though you told me to do my homework.
It's all right. No worries.
No, so the guy that I've got listed on here, and I preface this with, it's only because of his size, and it's J.J. Taylor out of Arizona. He's being 5'6".
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, looking at his stats, he had 147 rush attempts, 720 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, 32 receptions, 289 yards. So the stats are there.
Garbage.
Huh?
I said in Arizona was garbage, so that's really impressive.
Yeah. So the numbers are there, right? He's got the abilities. The only person that I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, seeing someone at that size excel at the next level was like a Darren Sproles. And I think he just had the right systems that he was in. So that being said, and I've said this about other guys, if J.J. Taylor goes to a system where he can be used correctly, essentially, or a way that would benefit him, my mind might change. But what I'm looking at right now, 5'6", NFL, he's got some speed to him. But when you get to these linebackers at the NFL level, they're all running 4.4s, right? So they're all going to catch you in some fashion. It's just his size. That's why I'm a little bit more down on him. I think things could change if the landing spot's a good one. But that's where I'm at. J.J. Taylor.
Mine's Cam Akers out of FSU.
That's what I was going to pick.
Oh, well, here. I'm sorry.
All right, I'll see y'all later, guys.
No. That's a good one.
No, I'll let you go. It's you. Cam Akers, go ahead. What you got?
No, you like him too. We can share it in both.
Yes, I'll let you go first with it.
I don't have probably as much in-depth research as you do, but as I was going through these running backs, because obviously not a like as strong of a running back class in my opinion as we've seen, and so I wasn't really paying attention. But he's one of the guys I remember I'm seeing, and his numbers, especially like from when he got on campus, and his entire like the entirety of his body of work is so impressive. Just the sheer amount of yardage that he gets, and the chunks that he breaks off, and he's so fast. Oh my God, he's fast.
I agree. Yeah, Akers for me, I'm not a fan, right? Where he's being drafted versus where I think that his talent is, I think that he is a poor version of Keyshawn Vaughn. And I just feel that way because I feel like all of the love that Akers gets about being this, he was behind a terrible offensive line and this and that. Keyshawn Vaughn was behind one of the worst offenses in the history of college football last year and still produced week in and week out. And he improved his game. He caught the balls out of the backfield, and that's exactly what I wanted to see out of Vaughn. Let's go ahead and kick it off with a running back that you love. Emily?
I love Eno Benjamin. Obviously,
yes, I love that dude.
Yeah, he's again, it's gonna look like I'm picking all Pac-12 people, but it's just I got to know these kids, especially Arizona State, because I was such a non-believer in Herm Edwards. Like I thought that was the worst move they could have made. I was like, he's not going to understand the culture. Like he's old. Arizona State's like a party school. Like he's not going to get it. And when they beat Michigan State 2 years ago, I was there and I sat in the post-game room and I heard him talking to people and how he interacts. And I was like, this dude like gets it. Like he can talk to young guys. He can talk to their families. And I've seen him kind of usher along these kids. Manny Wilkins is from the Bay Area. He grew up and went to high school where I live. And so I followed very closely Arizona State's offense. And what Eno Benjamin would do to Pac-12 defenses was criminal. I mean, he's so quick finding holes. He's quick at hitting them. He hits another level of speed once he takes off and you cannot catch him. He's so smart and he's slippery and he just keeps bouncing. And I think he's going to be really valuable. I think he needs to put on a little bit, to wreck through some of those lines, and that'll be a concern. But if he can, oh my God, it's going to be fun to watch him.
My favorite thing about Eno Benjamin, he was my favorite person to be around down in Mobile. He's so spunky. He's so full of life. He's the life of the party. He's just hilarious. And that's it. Once you see that and then you equate that to what you see on the football field, I would agree. Stoops, who do you love, man?
Who do I love?
Other than me.
Well, all right, if we're going to go to love, Did I
say like? Did I say
don't
like?
know. I'm going to you maybe said love. I'm not paying attention anymore. I'm just listening to y'all talk. All right, so my love, I went pretty, you could kind of get J.K. Dobbins, one of the top running backs in the class. I went with that one. J.K. Dobbins. He's my RB1 in the class. I had Jonathan Taylor. To me, it's this. One or two, like to me, right. Some have him at 3, you know what I mean? But overall, put who you want up there. I think they're all going to be amazing at that top level. But J.K. Dobbins is my love. Just what I saw out of him. Ohio State offense is a loaded offense. So for him to still have over 2,000 rushing yards, 247 receiving yards, he did account for 90 first downs, which I think is an awesome number to see from a running back. Keeps the chains rolling. So definitely loved seeing that. He had 22 plays that went for 21 yards or more. I don't have how many of them went for touchdowns, but nonetheless, he got those big gains. He got, even on the short yardage, he had 125 touches that went 0 to 3 yards. So he's able to, was it on a 1st and 10 maybe, and he only got it to, 2nd and 7, but nonetheless, he's able to gain the short yardage when is needed, gain the big yards when is needed. Overall, man, I love J.K. Dobbins. Watching his film, he's done it year after year. So he's a good J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think him and Swift are easily the best. The easier of the two backs in this draft that I think can play in all 3 downs and benefit somebody right off the back from day one. Obviously, landing spot. We'll never know. We're not going to know exactly how much we like each one of these guys per se until they're drafted. You know what I mean? They could get drafted into running back purgatory. J.K. Dobbins could be drafted by the Patriots tomorrow, and he'll be, the 98.
We'll never know.
And we'll never hear from J.K. Dobbins ever again. You know what I mean? But obviously, we're going to transition to the hot spot of the quarterback position. I'm going to start off with the hate. My hate is Jalen Hurts out of Oklahoma, obviously.
For him.
The thing about Jalen Hurts is this. Okay, the big game is where I see he has issues. He was terrible in that game against LSU. They pulled him in that game against Georgia, which obviously ended up taking that job, winning the championship, et cetera, et cetera. I have a problem with what I've seen Jalen Hurts. During the Senior Bowl week, I thought he had a really rough week that week. I don't think that he's a very accessible person. I'm not sure about his attitude. We've heard differing opinions. I've seen once it came out of the Senior Bowl that his reputation was kind of being questioned. You saw Jalen Hurts on ESPN with little kids for like 3 straight weeks. But for me,
reputation being questioned, how? Like,
so for me, what we heard about Jalen Hurts was he's just not a very personable person, very approachable, not very personable.
Yeah.
Very much
hard to get there. I found it very hard to get a hold of him.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling a story about the split helmet, with the organization that's a charity that he worked with at Oklahoma, and his agent blew me off multiple times. Yep. I even talked to his trainer, who I know, and he couldn't get me in touch with this kid. It was impossible. And it was for, an article that's a feel good piece. So,
well, that's the thing. That's what stood out too. Whenever we went to that luncheon, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was nowhere. I don't even think that he went to the luncheon. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Justin Herbert sat there and took interview questions from 90,000 of us and was perfectly great. Even one random guy asking for his phone number. He was very nice about it.
You can be list. I love the Senior Bowl. It's one of my favorite events. Nagy does an incredible job.
Amazing.
But you get the weirdest group of media at that. And I say that with all the love in the world, because my closest friends I've met there, but it is a weird group. We are a weird group.
Yeah, we were just sitting there and I'm next up to talk to Herbert, right?
Yeah.
I'm excited. This is a good one. We're going to get this one for the podcast. Herbert, one of the top quarterbacks in the draft. This guy's asking very personal questions. I couldn't hear, but then he goes, well, can I get your phone number, man? And then Herbert looks at him and says, he was very gracious. He's like, that's very personal. I don't want to give out that information here. And then Herbert bolts. You know what I mean? So then there went our interview with Herbert.
Yeah.
And he was getting very uncomfortable. He's getting pulled in 50 different directions.
Yeah, he's not a big media guy. That's the one thing for Pac-12 Insight. He doesn't like to do the interviews because he's not a big attention on him kind of guy. And that's the only reason is he's just he's really quiet. He's a very private person. So
I was impressed with him that week.
Yeah, I mean, I know he did a good job there, but it's against his nature to kind of self-promote,
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You have really, obviously, my 1 and 2, Burrow, Herbert. You have 2 polar opposite characters, right? Mm-hmm. You have the flamboyant guy with the super swag, and then you've got Justin Herbert, who is just chilling. You know what I mean? He's just chilling. Yeah. But Stoops, your quarterback, who you hate, give it to us.
Quarterback that I hate is one that a lot of people love, Jordan Love. I'm not a big fan of Jordan Love. I just wasn't impressed with what I saw this past year. So, and I've said this so many times because people tell me, go watch the 2018 film. Cool. So I go and watch that. I just felt the same way. I just wasn't impressed with his throws. I mean, he did make throws. I will give him that. He made some really top-notch throws. But to me, overall, he seemed very relaxed on a lot of the ones where he should really put some zip on the ball. Throwing the 16 interceptions to only 20 touchdowns. Did throw for over 3,400 yards, and he had 173 rushing yards. So he's able to get it done on the ground when needed. But overall, I left unimpressed.
Yeah.
All across the board. Film, practices. I just was not impressed with Jordan Love at all. He's my hate. And he could go to the right offense and he could prove me wrong and make me look dumb, and that's fine.
No,
I'll take it.
I was not impressed. People ask all the time about him. I don't know how he got I don't get how he got to be this high in the conversation. What happened and why? If somebody could tell me, point to the moment and the reason this is why Jordan Love is 3 or 4 on people's boards. Show me that moment. Show me why.
I'll show you why. His name is Matt Miller.
Miller.
There's no bigger fan of. I think he has.
Why though?
I don't. Everybody talks about, he's the next big thing. People think that, even Matt Miller said, I think that he should go above Herbert. I'm like, what are you watching? Like
when
he did not. There's no way that Matt Miller watched a Utah State game ever. I mean, like.
When we asked him like why, it was just convenient that someone tapped him on the shoulder and was just like, "Oh hey," and he's like, "Oh, I got to get this."
Yeah,
it was just convenient.
We're down the Senior Bowl, and I'm like, "This is my one question. I'm going to find Matt Miller, and he's going to tell me why Jordan Love."
I have his number. Do you want me to text him and just be like, "Hey"?
Yes, why Jordan Love?
I might.
You might get a 4-page story in response of why he. It's crazy to me. I
just know.
I've tried to like him. You know what I mean? I've tried to.
I didn't, because from the start when people liked him, I was like, no.
Exactly.
I don't like Utah State really either. I don't know.
I don't get it either. If there's one quarterback that you love in this class, who is it, Emily?
This is really hard because obviously I'm going to say that I love Anthony Gordon.
Oh,
nice.
Yes.
I know.
Standing ovation.
And it's probably a little unfair because I'll tell you the story. So Anthony, obviously Pac-12 guy, he played at San Francisco City College. And if people are watching, I just tweeted out the story I did on this at the Senior Bowl. And Nick Rolovich, the Washington State coach, also played at San Francisco City College and played with Anthony Gordon's dad. Well, I don't think they were in the same year, but they were within years of each other at SF City College. And people don't know, but San Francisco City College is like this hotbed of guys that transfer and go on and play college football at big schools. Like, for example, the kicker or the punter at Miami, the guy with all the tats, he went to San Francisco City College. People don't know this, but Anthony Gordon's just that dude. He is that dude that you just want around. He grinds it out. His numbers are impressive. There's nobody more comfortable in a pocket, in my opinion, than he is. And his coach at San Francisco City College is my ex-boyfriend from high school. So he gave me like all of these things that were just good. And he was honest. He's like, these are things he's good at. These are things that he might need to work on and whatnot. But just an incredible human being and a great quarterback. So I can't wait to see where he goes.
I love Anthony Gordon. I do. Yeah. I've talked about it. Stoops and I have talked about him. For me, he's the guy. This is the one thing I want for Anthony Gordon. I think Anthony Gordon's better than Gardner Minshew. Period. End of story. Okay. It's when you saw him down the Senior Bowl practice week. I had a person there. He's a Jalen Hurts guy. I'm an Anthony Gordon guy. Gordon had a rough practice week, right? He did. He was sketchy. But then he goes out in the game. Like, he's one of those guys.
Yeah.
It's like you watch him in practice, you're like, he's probably going to throw 7 picks this weekend. And then he goes out there and throws 7 touchdowns instead.
Yeah.
Right? He's a baller. You know what I mean? Like, he's like that backyard football guy that you want to pick at quarterback every single time. And if he goes to the right spot, like ideally, I'm like, if he goes to Tampa Bay and sit behind, if he sits behind a talented guy, he goes to Indianapolis, Rivers.
He's such
exactly. Yeah. And talking to him, like he picked up Leach's offense really fast. Yeah. And Leach's offense is not easy. You know, you're throwing the ball 50, 60, 70 times a game, no matter what. Pirate code. Yeah, exactly. So, Stoops, who's your love, man?
Yeah, my love is Justin Herbert. I liked what I saw on film. I know he had the moments where people were criticizing his accuracy overall. I liked enough what I saw from him, and then down in Mobile, right?
See, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Watching him on film, and this is my biggest point about him, it's so different than watching him in person. Did you not see the ability that you had to see the guy in person, see his presence, see his size, which is not represented on the screen at all?
Yeah.
Like, wasn't that a game changer for you?
It was. And the biggest thing, and Ricky's the one that pointed it out to me. Ricky, I always point the wrong way. In the practices down in Mobile, right? So whether his receivers caught the ball, didn't catch the ball, whether he threw a bad pass, it didn't matter. He's running 30 yards down the field to give him a high five, give him the pep talk. Like, that's what I love to see from a quarterback. And I didn't see it from a lot of the other guys. Yeah, here and there. I saw Gordon do it every once in a while, but Herbert did it every single time. He reminds
me of Andrew Luck in his mannerisms, like how he deals with people, how he speaks, and a lot of that is very reminiscent of how Luck was at Stanford with his guys. So all in. I'm so glad that you got to see the film and the in-person, because so many people have only seen the film and they're like, oh, well, they're not sold. But when you see his presence, it's like magnetic,
Well, and whenever we saw him, right, he walks by, and I mean, being 6'6", I'm only 5'9", 5'10". I'm not the tallest, right? And I'm over here just like just looking up at him. It's crazy. He's a big guy.
He's huge.
Yeah, he's big.
I had a guy on my podcast yesterday, Spencer Nye. He's a fullback from Auburn. And I was like, hey, that Auburn-Oregon game, huh? Like, that was crazy. Did you think Oregon was good? And usually SEC guys are like kind of dicks, and they're like, no, football in the world, which fair. But he actually was like, no, our whole team, offense and defense, thought Oregon was really good on both sides of the ball. And then I was like, well, what do you think of Justin Herbert? And he just said, he's like, he was a big dude, like a big ass dude. And I was like, that is the perfect way to describe him. Like, you're just taken aback by how big he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, going into the Senior Bowl, we were both very high on Herbert. Like, Herbert would be my number one if it wasn't for Burrow, right? Like, hands down. Like, it's never been a wavering for me on whether Herbert was the best quarterback in this. But seeing him down in Mobile, it was like, all right, all right, Herbert, you didn't have to go, right? He didn't have to go to Mobile, but he went to Mobile. And it was like, okay,
and
cool.
honestly, I think it's because he knows he's better in person. That is like my biggest thing I've been telling. Like, you have to see him in person to really understand the breadth of what he brings to a team. And I think he's so smart. He knew that, like,
yeah, exactly. And then watching, and that's the thing. That was the week where I was like, watched him and watched Jordan Love, watched Jalen Hurts, watch all the rest of these guys.
Versus Justin Herbert, like that like having to watch them back to back, that's painful.
And like, he has a beautiful touch on his passes. Like, it's just,
his hair is amazing. He has really good hair. Come on.
He does have gorgeous hair. That's very true. Like,
he's franchise looking QB. Like, you take that and you put that on a tag, and there's your like
for LA. He'd be perfect for LA. Like, if he goes to the Chargers.
Yeah, I would love that, except his personality is not super like he's like Jared Goff going to LA, in the sense that, like, dude, Jared Goff grew up down the street from me. Like, I know his grandparents. Like, he was not that kind of kid, and he's managed to stay that way. But Herbert's even less than Goff, and so it'd be interesting to see him like.
Yeah, you have him either in LA or you have him basically in Miami. Obviously,
he'd be a San Diego guy if San Diego still had a team. Do you know what I mean? Like,
chilled, relaxed, got that cool vibe.
Yeah, he goes surfing, like,
exactly. You see him on surf ads every single week. You know what I mean?
Or like, come visit San Diego.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, for me, like, he's head and shoulders above all the guys below. Right, 3 through 10. I don't really buy as the only two franchise quarterbacks, in my opinion, in this draft are Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert.
And we need to have a chat about Joe Burrow. We need to have a conversation about that.
All right, I'm listening.
It's not that I've seen it. I've been following him since he beat UCF. Like, I've been at a lot of his games, and I've seen him in person, and I've dealt with him. I was at the Heisman. Like, I've been around him a lot. This is the story I tell. He's obviously a very talented player. Okay. There's no denying that. He's a great quarterback. My issue comes a little bit with his personality. So I was talking to his long snapper, who is also one of his good friends and a permanent team captain with him and Rashard Lawrence. And he says, Joe Burrow's the guy, when he walks into the team meetings, everybody sits up straighter. He's that guy. He comes to work and he's a hard worker. Okay. And I believe that. He wouldn't let the quarterbacks carry him off the field after his last practice, which is a tradition at LSU. Coach O told me he was like, if you guys do that, I'm going to kick your ass. So he's obviously humble. He's a good guy, whatever. But this is what got me. Okay. After the Natty, they're all celebrating, whatever. And they come into the room where we're going to do the press conference, and he's carrying a hat, right? He's holding on to it. It's not the national championship hat. It's a different hat. It's purple, I think. And he puts it on backwards. Like, he starts to put it on forwards, but he puts it on backwards. And he wears it throughout the press conference. And I was like, that's weird. Because he doesn't wear a backwards hat all the time. But I don't know. It was weird. So I followed him afterwards. And I wanted to see what was on this hat. Turns out it was the Big Dick Joe hat. Okay. He had turned around and wore it then for the rest of the night. Because you saw pictures on Barstool. Everybody saw it. This kid he knew exactly what he was doing. He had his hat. He didn't want the media to see it. He turned it around, but he wore it the whole night instead of wearing his national championship hat like the rest of his team. That to me was kind of weird. And I've never seen a player do that. Does that make sense? Like,
to me, okay, he is
weird.
He reminds me of a more tamed version of like a Baker Mayfield, right? You know,
yeah.
I think he's more team oriented than Baker Mayfield was. Do I think that his swagger sometimes does go a little bit over the top?
It's a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
That
he's gonna have to take a step back, or he's gonna have a target on his back on Sunday, right?
Like, you can't go into another team stadium wearing a Big Dick Joe hat and then not expect to get hit your first
yeah. Not expect that first roughing the passer to be feeling very good, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter if you threw the ball already. They're gonna, oh, you wearing the Big Dick Joe hat. Okay, cool.
I think he's Baker Mayfield, but with more emotional control. Like you don't see the veneer slip very often, except like nights when there's video of him at clubs, dancing. Like you see a little bit of it, but you don't see it very often. But it's there. So my issue with him is that tiny little, okay, how, if he goes this really high draft, if he goes number one, how are they going to temper that kind of confidence, and harness it?
Well, going to the AFC South is going to do that really, really fast when you face Baltimore twice a year and Pittsburgh twice a year, and even Cleveland. Cleveland's got a stout defense. You know what I mean? So I like Burrow. I planted my flag in Burrow after the Texas game. I fought with Stoops. I fought with people on Twitter talking about how I thought he was going to win the Heisman. I mean, because everybody was Jalen Hurts.
People were not behind Burrow initially. It was weird.
No, it was. Yeah. What impressed me was he made a lot of big time NFL throws, right? Mm-hmm. And he showcased himself all year consistently with the pressure. Because after each win, it got more and more pressure. Are they for real? Are they not for real? Then the Alabama game came. He threw 90,000 touchdowns. It was for real. And then
I have a hard time with it because LSU is like the perfect team.
For sure.
Every single piece he's dealing with NFL caliber team, and where he's going to go in the draft, he's not going to have that level coach, that level, line, that level receivers. So we've never seen him really deal with adversity on the field. We've seen him deal with it when he had to transfer and all that stuff that happened. I don't think you can judge someone's ability based on the perfect season. Yes, he worked very hard to get there, but he also had everything go right. Do you know what I mean?
He did, and that's the thing. Like the people talk about, like I feel the same way about Tua, right? Tua had all world talent around him, right? Judy, Smith, and Ruggs are sitting there for your picking pleasure. Najee Harris
with Waddle kind of hanging out in the background, right?
Exactly, and Soup's not talking about it all the time. It's like Tua had all of these guys. That's probably why he had his. I'm not a Tua guy. I will never be a Tua guy.
And I'll tell you, what lost me with Tua is the natty 2 years ago, right? And he threw that interception, and it was like he had never thrown one in his life. Like, kid lost it on the sideline after he threw that. And you could just see, I'm like, bro, if you're going to throw a tantrum every time you throw an INT, the NFL is not for you. Like, it's just not. Because you're going to throw a ton more when you get in there. So that to me was like, this kid is spoiled in the sense football-wise. He's been spoiled with all of these good things. And so emotionally, he has not developed the kind of grit that you need to survive at the next level. And that's my issue with Tua, beyond the injuries that people talk about, is he's he throws tantrums. Like, they should have put Jalen in as soon as, I would have put Jalen in, they would have won that game, I think.
For sure. And that's the thing for me is like with Tua, it's like, the immaturity, but like I like to remind people, you're taking a guy with the top 5, top 10 pick. Mm-hmm. You're investing a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of effort if you're taking them that high. And I just don't see it. Like, Stoops, you love Tua?
What? No, I don't.
People do, though. I don't. Like, he's funny. Oh. One of the funniest kids I've talked to. He can quote every Migos lyric ever. Like, all hats off to him in those regards. But that game against Clemson, I think, was the most telling thing to me about who he is and how he handles things realistically. And we just didn't see it very much because Saban keeps all these things sheltered. Alabama's such a sheltered, thing. And I'm just not, I think he's going to fall tomorrow, and it's going to be, and we're going to see a little bit maybe of a tantrum.
Ooh, I like it. And that's the thing. It's crazy to me. It's like everybody's talking like right now. Everybody's like, well, is it going to be Herbert or is it going to be Tua?
I'm like, that's not even a conversation.
Exactly.
Like, why are we talking about that?
I saw a mock draft today where Herbert dropped to 23 to the Patriots.
I mean, but that's stupid, but that's good. Like, okay, great.
That'd be great for Herbert, right? You're going to play for Belichick, right? But like the thing about it is like, I don't know.
Belichick looked at, if you're talking about quarterbacks, I was talking to my buddy, and Belichick came out to a workout. And I can't say where or with who because it's a off the record thing, but he did look hard at James Morgan and was very interested in seeing his film particularly. So I thought that was interesting. I mean, I know that's been written about, but this was early on, and he asked about him. And that's kind of a big deal if Belichick makes the trip out. Mm-hmm. He went out somewhere to watch a kid, and then he specifically asked for this kid's game against James Morgan because he wanted to see him in the film as well. So that was when Belichick likes a guy, he likes a guy,
Yeah, I don't buy the smoke and screen that the Patriots are going to draft a quarterback round 1. I just don't. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, he could get Morgan like probably third round.
Third or fourth. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Morgan's 100%. Stoops, what do you got?
What are we on?
Oh,
we're done. We're good.
We're good. Oh, okay.
Went through it all, kind of. Yeah.
Well, I love Adam Troutman.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how you feel about the tight end landscape of things, but I feel like this class it's nowhere close to what we were looking at last year, right? I don't think any tight ends are going to go first round, but Adam Troutman and Hunter Bryant are two guys that I really, really like. Hunter Bryant, I think, is one that can be used in a different. He's 6'2", right? So from a tight end aspect, he's not going to be your 6'5", 6'6", go up and beat you guy. He's going to be the athletic type of tight end. So Hunter Bryant's gonna have to be used a little bit different, but I like him a lot. And Adam Troutman are the two tight ends that I like a lot. So outside of that,
do you like Colby Parkinson at all?
I was gonna ask you that. I was literally because I love Parkinson's at the beginning of the season, right?
Yeah,
big dude.
So tell me about him.
Yeah, exactly. Because he was one that I think I had him when we did our initial tight end rankings. I think I had him at 1.
I think me too. Yeah.
I think I did. And then I just
the problem is not him, it's David Shaw.
Yeah.
And we don't even have enough time to go on this tangent of dislike David Shaw and what he's done to that program. But they didn't basically have a tight end at all. Like he threw to him. Mills threw to Parkinson, but not like a traditional tight end. And they really diminished his role, and you couldn't see. If you watched him, not this year, but last year. So if you went back and watched his 2018 film, it was a lot better.
Really good.
Big catches against UCLA, I think, USC. He is a long guy. He can get really, really big. And he is like the scariest, gritty guy. Just almost like you think he's a fullback, how crazy he is, but he's a tight end. And I'm excited to see him go somewhere. And like how Zach Ertz went, people didn't think he was going to be as big as he was. Even Levine Toilolo, who was a Stanford guy as well, nobody thought he was going to make it, but they're smart guys and they get in where they fit in,
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. So my last question for you is it's about a guy that I really love going into next season. He's actually transferred obviously out of Stanford, but KJ Costello.
Okay.
All right. How do you think that he is going to adapt to Mike Leach's offense? And do you think that he can?
Yeah, I think he's going to love it because one of the biggest regrets of seeing him at Stanford and watching the struggle that was last year, the ridiculously of taking him out and not playing him in the USC game and letting a freshman play over him. Ridiculous. I don't care, how healthy or not healthy he was, which he was fine to play, but it was wasted because KJ is the guy on the field that everybody follows. I mean, like literally would walk off a cliff for this kid because he's that kind of leader, and he gets fired up. He yells, he screams. He's he's just that guy. And with the freedom in Leach's offense to kind of move around and throw, like, have all these options, right? But also to be able to choose what he wants to do with them. I fully believe Leach will trust him with that. Like we saw, with Minshew and Gordon, that ability to make those decisions on the field. And that's where he shines. Plus he's got a cannon. We just didn't get to see it.
Yeah, I'm a big Costello fan. I think that he's going to thrive as well. But talking to somebody that knows Costello, has seen Costello, and also seen a lot of Mike Leach out there too. So
yes,
it's
so much.
All right. So Emily, where can we find your stuff? Where's your social media, et cetera, et cetera?
Yes, absolutely. Well, my Twitter's been like scrolling on the bottom, which I love. I literally I need to figure out how to get that on any of my videos. But my Twitter's Emilnem, EMILNEM, and a lot of stuff right now. I'm doing a lot of podcasts. So my podcast is Sideline Sass. You can find it literally anywhere, iTunes, Spotify, whatever. And I did a lot of draft guys. So I have 3 different ones. Couple offense guys, couple defense guys, and a whole fullbacks episode. 3 fullbacks in this draft that I am very excited about, making fullbacks great again. So
you must have watched Peyton's Place. Peyton's Place, where what happened to the fullbacks? No, they talked about Jerome Bettis.
I didn't.
No, it's just funny. They basically how the fullbacks used to be like a thing, right? Like the fullbacks, and now it's not.
Well,
so that's awesome. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, but they weren't for a while.
No, they weren't. They were there, but like NFL teams weren't utilizing them, and they weren't calling them fullbacks. So they were like tight ends basically. But now we're seeing this resurgence of the position. I had Keith Smith on, and he talked a lot about Atlanta and the Falcons and his position. And then I had Torrey Carter from LSU, who incredible fullback in that system. And then the guys that came on here, I've got an Army guy who is incredible, and that's who Benjamin Albright. When I had him on my show, he thinks this kid Connor Slomka is going to be a good fit for a fullback somewhere. And then I had the Auburn kid and this kid Mikey Daniel. He's from South Dakota State, which hadn't really seen much of them. He was a fullback, and he walked on the team his freshman year. He was like 8th on the depth chart. He became the 7th all-time rushing touchdown leader at the school by the end of his career. And he's turning from running back into fullback because he thinks it'll be a better chance for what he needs to do. Big short yardage guy. Whoever picks up this kid, Mikey Daniel, remember that name, they're gonna utilize the shit out of him. So
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, we'll talk to you guys later.
Sounds good. Bye.